Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we have another topic from the 20th century American literature, and that is the theme of self-portrait in a convex mirror. So, before going with the text and with the original lines, we should have the complete understanding of the idea and theme of self-portrait in a convex mirror. What was the reason by John Ashbery to write such kind of majestic poetry, and on the base of this poetry, he gained universal acclaim all over the world, and he was awarded with many awards. And about the theme and about the story, John Ashbery is very clear and very neutral in the explanation. So Ashbery's self-portrait in a convex mirror provides a postmodern response to the 16th century painting of the same name by the Italian artist Parmigianino. The poem is about the struggle and the need and demand of Parmigianino, a painter of 16th century belonging to Renaissance period. And he was observing his face in a barber's convex mirror, and he just decided at the time to draw his own painting and through the convex mirror. So the poem begins with a rumination or the rumor on the painting style, in which the artist's right hand is distorted so that it appears larger than his head. So what he was trying to do, he was trying to paint his own picture, but when he had done this, he observed one thing, that his face was looking shorter than his hand. So this distortion causes the speaker to reflect that the painting is adopting a defensive posture. So it was done, it was completed, and when Parmigianino has done that, he observed the thing that the painting is containing a shorter image of him except the hand. But before doing that, he just observed that the painting is very simple, it's very pure, and it's very pious, and to observe the reality, it was a kind of a defensive posture adopted by the painting when he was doing the painting section. So, seeking to protect what it advertises, this develops into a meditation on the infinite regression of such a mirror portrait, in which the portrait is a reflection of the artist, which in turn is reflected back onto the painting and infinitum. So, forevermore, this develops into a meditation on the infinite regression. So it was some kind of collection of memory of past, of thinking, of an imagination. The painter wanted to paint a mirror portrait, and in doing so, when he had done that, he observed that there is a reflection of the artist, a complete reflection of the artist, which in turn reflected back into the painting and infinitum. So forevermore, it was a collection of reality, of imagination, and of the story which Parmigianinos want to portray. So here we can have the picture of self-portrait in a convex mirror. It was created in 1524. The medium used in the mirror, or the convex mirror, is of oil, and the supporting element is of made of wood. Subject is abstract, and the art movement was of mannerism. So it's very important. Like William Shakespeare, he was a follower of Jacobean age or Jacobean school of thought. Parmigianino was a follower of mannerism. So this painting was created by Parmigianino, as you can understand. It's a complete painting of him, and at the age of 20 he made that, and afterwards it was a spellbound success for him throughout the history of English literature. So the location was Austria, and it's displayed, and it's still displayed in Conspicuous Museum. It's still available under their museum. So while going with the lines, curious about the subtleties of art, Parmigianinos decided to draw himself as he appeared in a barber's convex glass. So I had told you earlier, he just think about himself and he just promised, I want to portray this self. So why he chose the convex glass mirror? Because in the Renaissance period there was a trend by the painters and by the spectators that they were preferably doing those things, that they were ordering others to make their pictures in a convex mirror, through the convex mirror. So through convex mirror the things are very clear, blurred, and somehow very unique to observe, because when we observe things through a convex mirror, some of the things looking very larger than our lives, and some things are looking very shorter than our observation. So that was something very unique, very curious, and very critical to be observed and to be believed. So that was the same pattern adopted by Parmigianino in his art. He made a statement about the nature of art and what it can reveal. It shows us the self-examination and exploration processes that the artist must go through in order to channel their creativity. Parmigianino has created a different sense of reality in his painting, something which is shifting, distorted, and unruly. So many people were trying to portray the complete vision and thinking of the painting, but what he has chosen, there was a shifting element, there was a distorted and unruly elements in the story, because what he was trying to do and what he was to convey in the poem, that was he wants to portray himself, and while he was portraying himself, he was trying his level best to shift and to accept the distorted elements and the untruly or unruly elements of the picture, because what he was observing, he was painting on the sketch. So he plays out a different divide between the material and the spiritual. So he just create a huge gulf between the material and the spiritual, the viewer and the artist. So he made a clear difference between the observer and the observing sense. So it was one of the greatest success by Parmigianinos, because mostly painter, when they were painting the pictures, they were mixing all the elements. It was same for the artist, it was same for the viewer side, it was similar from the spiritual and materialistic side. So when Parmigianino picturized his own picture, it was a huge vision by him. So in Self-Portrait in a Convex Mirror, we see the young Parmigianinos at age of 21. He looks dreamy, angelic, and full of aspiration. His face so smooth and fair that he looks more feminine than masculine and perhaps more divine than human. So the word of femininity over here is not related with some kind of sexual elements. It's related with the feature that being a male, he is very innocent, he is very smooth, and as he has picturized himself, you can very well observe the picture sorry, by him. It's very feminine. It's clear, no mustaches, no beard at all. It's very clear and it's very soothing. So perhaps more divine than human, this picture belongs to very angelic vision than the humanistic vision. So the painting is not on a flat canvas, but on a section of a wooden sphere that reproduces the shape of a convex mirror. It is said that Parmigianinos had a ball of wood made up at a turner's end and then divided into two. And on this, he painted everything that he saw on himself in the mirror. So what he observed in the mirror through himself, he just portrayed everything on that wooden piece, and it is some of the very difficult task because it's not a proper canvas. Wood, some of the time, it's not the smoothest surface. Somehow it contained blurs, and somehow it contained lines. So it was very difficult to portray anything on the wooden area, but he did that, and he did with a job element that was a great success for him. So the gilded circular frame surrounding the image also adds to the effect that the viewer is looking at a mirror. So he made a proper globe around the picture to make that reality that it's actually a convex mirror picture. Because if he's not making the globe, maybe it's gonna look like any other simple painted picture as we can ever sense and imagine. So Parmigianino gave this painting as a gift to Pope Clement VII. So it was a gift to Pope Clement, and he also made the picture of Pope Clement, and that was a great success by him at the time. So the speaker sees this recursive quality as evidence that the soul of the portrait is a captive, frozen forever and unable to move. What he has picturized over there, it was still, it was immovable, caught in an endless cycle of analysis. Such a life under the microscope, the speaker asserts, is a false way to live. The soul of the portrait is englobed. So everything which he has drawn is now closed, is now englobed in the portrait area, and no one can escape from this place. You can observe from the picture that we can easily observe uh, the gate, some kind of door panes, window panes above the portrait head side, and we can observe the wall area above the painter's head. So everything is over there, but it is in glow. Now the sketch of painter can't move. He didn't run away from the situation. So as if under glass, perhaps he suggests a person who brings to think of himself as an object for spectators to view loses something of his humanity. So again, the angelic view, the picture is very feminine and very innocent and very angelic, that he is very much clear in the suggestion that it's look like that who begins to think of himself that it is out of humanity. This picture can be of a simple human because it's very 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 beautiful. It's really very innocent, and it's beyond the imagination of understanding by others, because what Parmigianino has done, this is something matchless and unprecedented. So in the poem's next passage, the speaker applies this theme to his own life, and particularly to a nameless person, potentially the reader. So here we are shifting the moves and rights of the reader and of the painter and of the sketcher and of the poem writer itself. So whom he addresses in the second person. Throughout the bulk of the poem, the speaker maintains this dialectic relationship between his own interpersonal relationships and his philosophical exploration of the nature of art. So throughout the journey, interpersonal relationship and the philosophical exploration, that is very clear. These two heavy loaded vocabulary items, they should be very clear in your mind. Interpersonal relationship, the relationship of Parmigianino and his painting, and the philosophical exploration. So what we have actually gained out of this picture, that is much more understandable and much more applicable throughout the story. So the poem's elliptical means difficult, cursive, not easy to understand. Difficult style serves as something of a convex mirror itself. Themes are distorted, mutated, and pushed out of proportion throughout the poem. This has the effect of placing the reader in the same position regarding the poem as the speaker is regarding the portrait, seeking to puzzle out meaning and to see beyond the distortions. While the poem resists an easy statement of his theme, the conclusion challenges actually the reader to resist artificiality, particularly the aping naturalness. This is so common in daily life. A real emotionally engaged life is to be preferred to the cold, syrupy flow of a pigeon, no matter how beautiful. So again, I'll go with the lines. It is something very difficult to understand, that it has the effect of placing the reader in the same position regarding the poem as a speaker is regarding the portrait. So as far as you are regarding the portrait, you will go closer, closer, and much more understandable to the reading of this poem. If you're not understanding this portrait, you won't be able to understand the whole poem. So while the poem resists an easy statement of its theme, it's very easy from the statement that the poet wants to generate his view on the concept of Parmigianino's painting. The conclusion challenges the reader to resist artificiality, particularly the aping naturalness. So the aping, the adopted natural elements, that is so common in daily life, that a real emotionally engaged life is to be preferred to the cold, syrupy flow of a pageant, no matter how beautiful. So the story is moving on, it's flowing, it's going upside down. What you have to do, you have to follow the rhythm and lines of the. So a use of different approaches in the making of painting. So what was the approach element used by Parmigianino when while he was painting? So the subject, what was the subject by him? In self-portrait in a convex mirror, we get the impression that the artist is the hero of the piece and that the painting celebrates his youthful talent. Parmigianino's direct gaze holds the viewer's attention, and the light literally falls on and illuminates the artist. Parmigianino is portrayed as contemplative, but there is also an emphasis placed on his hand, and it is this which dominates the foreground of the picture. So the main protagonist of the painting is Parmigianino itself. and what he wants to convey, he wants to picturize his own picture. So the artist's hands perhaps represents the manual and technical skill that he dedicated to his work. However, his head is also illuminated and central to the picture's composition, stressing the importance of learning and the philosophical nature of the artist. So, as well as he is painting the picture, on the other side, he wants to have another stress, and that is the importance of learning and philosophical nature of the artist. What he wants to convey through the painting, that was one of the most key element to observe. So the mirror, what is meant by the mirror? The mirror enlarged everything that was near and reduced everything in the background, and Parmigianino wanted to mimic this effect. At the bottom of the image, the artist's hand looms large and dominates the painting of uh, Parmigianino as well. So, unlike Parmigianino, many of the early Renaissance artists used the mirror as a tool to iron out distortions, not to represent them. Mirrors were regarded as a sort of third eye of painters. Leonardo called the mirror the master of painters, and he wrote that painters oftentimes despair of their power to imitate nature on perceiving how their pictures are lacking in the power of relief and vividness which object possesses when seen in a mirror. So, as Leonardo, he again a famous name in Renaissance period, he also convinced this factor that using the mirror is calling the masters of painters, because it's very difficult to draw anything in a convex mirror, because things are looking larger than life, things are looking smaller than life images. So many Mannerist artists, including Parmigianino, were keen to explore and employ different perspectives and conflicting spaces. They dismantled the Renaissance works that promoted a sense of orderly space. So they changed the whole scenario and whole picture of acceptance. And what they did in the end, they just changed the whole thinking view, because as the follower of mannerism, they changed the manner of observing the thing, they changed the manner of acceptability, and while doing so, they were very much clear what to adopt and what to reject at that moment. So color palette. So the color in the painting are pale and muted, not bold or lifelike, which adds to the sense that we are looking at a reflection of artist in the mirror. He has not only managed to study himself in a convex mirror, but has reproduced exactly what he saw in it. The viewer is made to believe that they are looking at his image reflected in the mirror and not a surface created with paint and brushes. So, a very beautiful explanation by some critic, that this viewership is made to believe that looking at the image is not the surface created by painted and brush, it is actually image and actually a portrait of the writer of the painting itself. So actually the painter is writing his own vision in form of painting on the wooden canvas through the convex mirror. So here we have the portraits, and these portraits are by Parmigianino, and this first portrait is of the Pope Clement, and the second picture is of the Jesus and the Mother Mary, and another one, this is from the Greek mythology, and this is again by Parmigianino, and at the age of 20, 21, or 22, he made all these masterpieces. So this is a portrait by Vasari, another actor or character involved in the poem. This is a picture by Vasari, a very beautiful looking image by another picture of Leonardo da Vinci by Vasari, and they were just mastered in their approach, and what they had drawn, that was simply remarkable. So, a self-portrait in a convex mirror is a long poem in free verse. It's 552 lines divided into six verse paragraphs on unequal length. The title refers to a 1524 painting by Italian artist Francesco Mozzella. Is another name of Parmigianino, also known as to Parmigianino. Self-portrait is a convex mirror makes the poet's thoughts about Parmigianino's painting the focus for a different kind of self-portrait, a self-portrait in words. So in 552 lines, he is actually focusing on the mirror image, on the convex mirror image by Parmigianino, and what he was actually trying to do in the whole portrait That was the actual theme and dream of the self-portrait in a convex mirror. So although a poet may use the first person as a voice of a persona, a character whose outlook and experience are quite different from the poet's. In Self-Portrait in a Convex Mirror, the voice is John Ashbery's own. The poem represents the poet thinking out loud, revealing the processes of his own mind as he considers Parmigianino's self-portrait. So as he considered the self-portrait of Parmigianino, John Ashbery has voiced the uh, picture or painting of Parmigianino, and he has used something very usable elements in the painting sketching of the Parmigianino's painting, and he had just done marvelous job while writing about this poem. So in the very first paragraph, verse paragraph, Ashbery quotes from Giorgio Vasari's lives of the most eminent painter, sculptor, and artist. This is a book of Giorgio Vasari. Vasari describes how Parmigianino painted his self-portrait on half of a ball of wood as if his face were reflected in the surface of a convex mirror. It, in the resulting painting, Parmigianino's right hand appeared to be thrust forward as though to protect what it advertises. So maybe by painting the hand in front of him, maybe he just want to overshadow something which he don't want to show to others. So describing the painting, the poet is also interpreting it, finding it in several paradoxes, a service which appears to have depth, a soul that is not a soul, an affirmation that doesn't affirm anything. So describing about the soul and affirmation, that is something not findable, and its full paradoxical statement. So John Ashbery has tried his level best to portray and to regard the painting skills of Parmigianino. The second verse paragraph suggests an interruption in Ashbery's meditation. In fact, each verse paragraph represents a break in the poet's attention as his thoughts move towards and away from the painting. As Ashbery's attention draws away from the painting, he makes more comparisons between Parmigianino's self-portrait and the poet's own mind. So, with a passage of time, as he was writing these 552 lines, with the passage of time, he was moving closer and closer to the imagination and vision of Parmigianino's self-portrait. John Ashbery tried his level best to meditate his vision and the vision of painter itself. So because some of the time it's very difficult to portray each and everything from your own perspective, because you have to follow the painter too. But he had tried to satisfy his vision, and he has tried to satisfy the vision of his imagination, as well as he has tried his level best to satisfy the vision and the self-satisfaction level of the painter, as well as forces of his self too. So as well as we are going with the lines, who are the characters involved in the poem? It's also very important to read and understand this thing. So the number one character, or the most readly protagonist of the poem, that is Parmigianino, and Francesco Maria Mozella, that was the actual name of Parmigianino, and he was born on 1503 to 1540. He was an Italian Renaissance painter associated with Mannerism. He rendered his self-portrait in a convex mirror around 1524 when he was making that picture. That was 1524. He was very young at that time, on a specially prepared convex canvas. Today it resides at the Constituus Museum in Vienna, Austria, where Ashbery was able to view it in person for the first time in 1959. So Ashbery's self-portrait in a convex mirror, then first published in Poetry in 1974, is a product of 25 years of thought regarding Parmigianino's painting and all it represents. So it took some kind of centuries journey when John Ashbery has looked that picture, and he just went with the story and history of that picture, and he just tried to portray what was the theme and dream while portraying such kind of picture in Austria. So he go with the lines. So the lines are very good and very excellent to read. They are in they just start.
that Ashbury begins the poem by referring to Parmigianino's prominent right hand in the painting. As Parmigianino did it, the right hand, bigger than the head, thrust at the viewer and swerving easily away as though to protect what it advertises. So he was very clear in the view what when he was observing the painting. He just took the real lines of his observation and he just said that Parmigianino is trying to portray something which is of his own choice, which is of his own likeness. And when while he's doing this, he is advertising something, and as well as he is hiding something. So he is following the both patterns, that in the right hand what he is wearing a little finger ring over there, and as well as it's looking bigger than the hand, but thus at the viewer, but he is putting that question on the viewer, what you understand in result, that's up to you. So what it advertises, it depends on the viewership, it depends on the audience, how they feel and how they understand the thing. So throughout the poem, Ashbery returns repeatedly to Parmigianino's self-portrait as a touchstone for his own speaker's meditations on representation, perception, time, and so on. So important words to remember: meditation, representation, perception, and time. So he often addresses Parmigianino directly as Francesco, lending the intimacy of two practitioners discussing their craft. So for keeping the friendship, he is just addressing Parmigianino as he is observing him, or maybe he is just painting that picture just in front of John Ashbery, and now he's trying to have a view from John Ashbery. What is your opinion on this painting? So the practice here being art and its relation to and deviations from life. Very near the poem's end, and Ashbery writes about the thing, what he believes while he was writing. Therefore, I beseech you, I am requesting you, withdraw that hand. Offer it no longer as shield or greeting. I'm not saying your hand is providing you a shield or some kind of greeting barrier in the imagination. The shield of the greeting, Francesco. There is a room for one bullet in the chamber. You have still the space, like a bullet in a chamber means we have the proper space of explanation in it. You don't need others to explain your view. So looking through the wrong end or the of the telescope as you fall back at the speed faster than that of light to flatten ultimately among the features of the room. So it's not very difficult to observe each and everything in the picture, but it's up to the audience and to the viewer what they understand from the telescope as you fall back at the speed, because you are observing that you can go back to the picture side in the Parmigianino's picture. You can observe behind the scene of the Parmigianino's picture, all the scene behind it is very blurry, it's milky. So he is referring to that way, that like a telescope faster than that of light to flatten ultimately among the features of the room. So it's not very clear what are the actual features of the room, but you can try and you can make your own perception, because it's your mind, it's your vision, what you understand from this thing. So Giorgio Vasari, another famous character of the poem, who was him and what's the role of him in the poem actually. Giorgio Vasari, he lived from 1511 to 1570, and he was an Italian painter. So again, a very good artist, a very good painter, sculptor, and architect, and author of the lives of the most celebrated painters, sculptors, and architects. So he was a person who wrote actually about the remote and the living legends of that Renaissance period and before that. So that's why his book got popularity and remarkability with the passage of time. His book is a foundation of modern art historiography and the prototype of all biographies of artists. So it's a very tough work to gauge and to record each and every data of the writers. So Giorgio Vasari was born on July 30, 1511 in Arezzo. According to his own account, he was apprehended as a boy to Andrea Salsato in Florence. He apparently suffered at the hands of Andrea's wife. To judge from the waspish references to her in his Life of Andrea, Vasari's career is well documented. because in childhood he was disturbed, but he maintained himself and he put everything into his art and picture gallery, so that give him a popularity and a success in his afterlife. So Vasari had an extremely active career, but much of his time was spent as an impresario, devising decorations for courtly festivals and similar inferior. His fulsomely praised the Medici family for forwarding his career from childhood, and much of his work was done for Cosimo I, so Grand Duke of Tuscany. So he worked for him a lot. Vasari was a prolific painter in the Mannerist style. Again, he was following the Manneristic pattern of Parmigianino as well, and was also active as an architect, his talents in the later profession being superior to those he displayed as a painter. So he supervised the buildings of Pope Julius III's Villas Gorilla near Rome, and but his masterpiece is the reconstruction of the Uffizi Picture Gallery in Florence, which is still over there, and originally the offices of the Grand Ducal administration, and they are still over there in those places. So it is almost impossible to imagine the history of Italian art without Vasari. So fundamental in his life, it is the first real and autonomous history of art, both because of its monumental scope and because of the integration of the individual biographies into a whole. So that was the success level of Vasari, that he made the integration of individual biographies into a whole session. So thanks for listening to the discussion, and I'll wait for the question answer session. I hope you have good question and good queries about the data. I know it's very difficult, but it's not so difficult to understand. If you have any query, you can answer on the lively chat session, and I'll answer these questions as far as I will see it possible. Thank you so much.